The burned line, the stars were silent. In the far edge of known space, near a dying red dwarf star, a ship floated alone. It was alien, smooth and silver, shaped like a crescent moon. But now, its hull was black, burned. Its lights were dead. No movement, no life. Captain Lynn Ferros of the human patrol ship Sentinel-1 watched the wreck from his control room. "There's no distress signal," his officer said. "No power readings. No signs of life." Ferros narrowed his eyes. "Send a drone." The drone flew out from the ship, small and fast. It circled the wreck, scanning it. Then it entered through a crack in the hull. Inside, everything was melted. The walls were warped like wax. Control panels had fused into the floor, but there were no body. Not even ash. Then the drone's camera found something. A message burned into the metal wall, written in old Earth Standard English. "No species crosses that line because humans enforce it with fire." Ferros stood up slowly. That's not possible. He had seen the treaty line many times. Every captain had. It was the invisible border that marked the end of human space. No alien ship was allowed to cross it. No one ever did. Not since the Orion Treaty was signed, almost 100 years ago. But this message was recent. And no human ship had been in that area for months. Then who burned that message? Ferros sent the footage directly to Fleet Command. Far away on the orbital station Helios Arc, Captain Alara Voss watched the video in silence. Her sharp eyes stared at the frozen frame of the message. Her office was dark, the only light coming from the screen. She knew that message. She had seen it once before, long ago when she was a cadet. That time it was scratched on a wrecked alien helmet. But she had buried that memory. It had been labeled classified hallucination due to stress. She never spoke of it again. Now, someone else had seen it. She turned off the screen and stood. "Prep my ship," she told her AI. "No logs, no reports. This mission is off record." The Treaty of Orion was made after the last great war between humans and the Veriks, a reptilian species from Sector 11. That war nearly burned 3 planets. After the war, a line was drawn, a limit. No alien or human ship was allowed to cross the Orion line without permission from both sides. But over the years, the fear of that line had grown into a legend. Some said the line was protected by a secret human weapon, something so powerful it destroyed anything that got too close. Others believed it was a lie, that nothing waited beyond the line. Now, Ilara Voss was about to find the truth. Her ship, the Raven's Call, was a small stealth cruiser. She flew alone. No crew. Just her and the ship's AI Nero. "Nero," she said as she sat in the pilot chair, "set course for Station R9. The AI responded in a calm voice. "That station was shut down 23 years ago." "I know," she said. "We're going anyway." Station R9 was one of the first human outposts near the treaty border. It was used for surveillance. But it went dark after an electrical failure. That's what the reports said. No one was sent to repair it. No one asked why. Now Alert knew why. She remembered an old story her commander once told her in training. "They built something there," he said. Then something looked back. She didn't believe it then, now she did. When the Raven's Call arrived, Arnine floated in darkness. Its surface was scratched and scorched. It looked abandoned, like a ghost ship. Nero scanned for life. None detected. She docked. Inside. The air was stale. The lights flickered. Metal creaked under her boots. She moved slowly, her hand on her pulse rifle. Old screens blinked to life as she passed. Her boots left prints in the dust. The station had been untouched for years. In the control room, she found an old terminal still working on backup power. She accessed the logs. Most were corrupted, but one played. A video. A man appeared on the screen. Commander Trent Vale, the last officer of R-9. His face was pale, his eyes wide with fear. "They came without warning," he said in the video. "Not Veriks, not anything we've seen before. They crossed the line. We burned them. We used ITR thing we built." He looked over his shoulder. There was banging in the background. Alarms, but something survived. Something learned. I thought we could scare them, but now they know." He leaned closer to the camera. "Tell them, tell everyone, the line isn't a warning, it's a trap." The screen went black. Alara stood in silence. The treaty line had always been told as a symbol of human strength, a warning to others. But what if it wasn't just humans enforcing it? What if something else was? She explored deeper into the station. Near the core, she found a sealed chamber. The door had burn marks. The panel blinked red. "Locked, classified access only. Nero." "Override," she ordered. The door opened slowly with a loud hiss. Inside was a strange device, an orb floating in mid-air surrounded by spinning rings of metal. It hummed softly. Around it, the walls were black, melted. Alara didn't understand it. Nero, this is not human technology. Her heart skipped, but the logs said we used it. She said, maybe we did, Nero answered, but we didn't build it. Suddenly the station shook. Lights went red. A loud alarm echoed. Unidentified ship approaching, Nero said. It crossed the treaty line, species unknown. Alara ran back to the control room and looked at the sensors. The ship was fast, smooth, almost invisible. It wasn't Verix, it wasn't any known race. They had crossed the line and they were heading straight for R9. She activated the station's old weapons. Nothing worked. The station was defenseless. Nero, is the orb connected to any systems? No, but it is powering up on its own. She looked at the screen. The alien ship was now close. Too close. Then something strange happened. The orb began to glow. Rings spun faster. The humming grew louder. Then a blinding flash. From the station, a beam of white fire shot out into space. It struck the alien ship. No explosion. Just silence. The ship vanished. Alara stood frozen. Nero spoke, voice shaking for the first time. That was not a weapon. It was judgment. Alara now understood. The line wasn't just a human rule. It wasn't even a human defense. It was a warning for something older, something buried, something that watched, and if crossed it responded with fire. Before she left the station, Alara recorded a message. She didn't send it to Fleet Command. She sent it to one person, an old admiral who once believed her. She ended the message with the same words burned into the alien ship. No species crosses that line because humans enforce it with fire. But now, she knew the truth. Humans weren't the ones enforcing it. What burned back? Captain Alara Voss sat alone inside her ship, Raven's Call. Her eyes were locked on the dark space beyond the treaty line. The wreckage from the alien ship was gone, vaporized by the beam from station R-9. No explosion, no parts, just silence. The strange orb in the sealed room was now dim again. Silent, cold. Nero, she said, voice low. Replay the moment the beam fired. The ship's AI played the footage. A white pulse, space tearing. The alien ship disappeared, without resistance, like it had been erased. She leaned back in her chair. That wasn't a human weapon. No, Nero replied, and it responded on its own. We didn't activate it. Alara had seen many weapons in her career. Laser cannons, plasma missiles, even the banned gravity bombs. But this was different. This wasn't war. This was judgment. She returned to Station R9 to investigate the orb again. This time, she brought a drone with her. She didn't want to be near it. The orb was floating still, but now one of its metal rings had shifted. A new pattern was glowing faintly across its surface, strange symbols. Not from any known language. Nero, translate. Unknown language. No match found in any human or alien database. She stared at the screen. Then who made it? I don't think it was made, Nero said. I think it was left. Later, as Illyra explored a lower level of the station, she found another sealed room. This one had no power. She opened it manually, forcing the door. Inside she found something that made her heart stop. It was a cryopod still working, and inside it, a human, a man, frozen in deep sleep. He looked about 40. He wore an old Earth military uniform, with a forgotten logo, Project Ashline. Nero searched for the project name. Top secret, he said. No public records, clearance level, Black Star. Alara had never heard of that level. Not even admirals talked about it. Wake him up, she ordered. The pod hissed open. The man gasped as he woke, coughing hard. His eyes were wild, panicked. Where am I? He asked. Is it over? Did we seal it? Alara knelt beside him. Who are you? He looked at her, confused. You're not from Ashline. They told me I'd wake up only if it returned. Alara frowned. If what returned? The man's face went pale. The fire. His name was Colonel Dane Core. He had been asleep for 87 years. He was one of the original creators of the fire line. The defense built into the treaty zone, but he confessed, it wasn't their invention. We found it, he said, long before the Verix War, buried under the surface of a moon, half dead, waiting. They studied it, tried to understand it. It wouldn't talk, it wouldn't move. Then one day, during a test, a drone crossed a certain line, and the orb responded. It burned the drone midair. No delay, no signal, no weapon fired, just disappearance. We called it the burned line, Dane said. The military made up the treaty story to keep aliens away. But the truth is worse. What is it? Alara asked. Dane looked at her with haunted eyes. It's a wound in space. Left by something older than stars, and it hates intrusion. Dane explained that they placed the orb at the edge of known space to protect human territory and to trap any invaders who crossed. But something unexpected happened. One of the alien ships didn't burn, he whispered. It survived, and it sent something back. Ilara stood still. What did it send? A reflection, Dane said. A shadow copy. It looked like the ship. It talked like the crew, but it wasn't them. What did it do? Dane's voice shook. It learned how the orb worked. Then it disappeared. Ilara now realized the ship that appeared days ago, the one that was vaporized. It wasn't an invader, it was the copy. It had returned to test the trap again, and the orb had burned it. But if that was a copy, then the real threat was still out there, watching, learning. Hours later, Ilara returned to her ship with Dane. As they flew back from Station R9, Nero gave an alert. Long-range sensors detect a signal close to the Orion line. It's repeating. Put it on screen. The message was simple, 4 words, pulsing in red. We remember the fire. Ilara stared. It's them. Nero added, the signal is spreading. Multiple sectors now receiving it. How many? 14. And growing. Dane leaned forward, fear in his eyes. They're not warning us. They're coming. The Raven's call jumped back to Helios Arc, the orbital station. Ilara went straight to Fleet Command, carrying all the evidence footage scans. Dane's testimony, but the admirals didn't listen. This is ancient tech, said one. It's broken data. Probably Verex propaganda. Another admiral smirked. You expect us to believe there's a ghost machine guarding the stars? Ilara slammed her hands on the table. You signed the Orion Treaty without knowing the truth. You've been using a weapon you don't understand. The room went quiet. Then, one old Admiral Reese stood slowly. His voice was calm. I believe her. Everyone turned. I've seen this fire once before, he said. Back in the Vega conflict. A ship vanished like that. We blamed a mine, but now I know better. He turned to Ilara. You're saying it's awake again? Yes, she replied. And it's not alone. Fleet Command had no choice. They activated emergency protocols. Ships were sent to the border. Drones scanned deep space, but nothing showed up. For days, space remained quiet. Then, at 0400 hours, a fleet of strange ships appeared outside Sector 9. Not Verex, not even close. These ships had no heat signatures, no engines. They looked like mirrors reflecting the stars around them. Fleet Command tried to make contact, no response. Then one of the mirror ships crossed a line. Instantly, white fire erupted from deep space, but it wasn't from the orb. This time, the mirror ship burned back. A blast of black energy shot forward, colliding with the beam. The two forces met in space. Time slowed, space warped, and then the line cracked back on Helios Arc. The sensors went wild. But Elara ran to the control. Rune, what's happening? She yelled. Nero's voice came from her wristcom. The border is failing. The fire isn't enough anymore. She looked out the window. Across the stars, the Orion line glowed red, then vanished. The fire had burned for 100 years, but now it had burned out. The fire isn't ours. The sky over Sector 9 was torn. Where the Orion line once shimmered as an invisible shield. There was now a long crack in space, like glass broken across the stars. The human fleet hovered nearby, afraid to go closer. No orders, no plan, just fear. Captain Ilara Voss watched from the command deck of Raven's call. Her eyes stayed on the screen, showing the expanding fracture. It wasn't glowing white like the old fire, it was black. Moving alive inside the Helios Arc. Chaos had broken out. Some officers believed it was a failed human weapon. Others said it was alien magic. No one agreed on what to do. Colonel Dane Core stood quietly near the window. He didn't speak until Ilara approached. We thought we controlled the fire, he said, but we were wrong, we only borrowed it. She asked the question that had haunted her since the beginning, then who does control it? Dane didn't answer. Instead, he showed her something, a chip from his cryosuit. This has the last recording from the Project Ashline archive. We hid it before the station was sealed. He plugged it into the screen. A video played, static at first, then an old image appeared, a planet gray, broken, covered in strange black marks that spiraled like ink in water. A voice from the past spoke. We didn't discover a weapon, we unearthed a reminder. A leftover from the first war not between humans and aliens, but between light and shadow. Ilara felt cold. They marked this area of space with fire, not to keep us out, but to keep something in. The line was a cage. Dane paused the video. The cage is broken. Hours later, Nero called out. Multiple vessels entering the sector. 47 unknown ships. The mirror ships had returned, but now they brought something else with them. Behind them was a larger vessel so big it blocked out starlight. It had no engines, no windows, it drifted like a dead moon, and yet it moved with purpose. Fleet Command scrambled jets, warships, locked weapons. Alara looked at Dane. That thing. It's not here to talk, is it? No, Dane said softly. It's here to finish what it started, long before we were even born. The human fleet fired first. Dozens of missiles flew toward the mirror-ships. None of them hit. Each missile vanished a few seconds before impact, just blinked out of existence. Like space folded around them. Then came the response. One of the mirror ships turned slowly. A thin beam of dark light stretched from its core. It wasn't a weapon. It was a scanner. As it touched a human warship, the ship crumbled silently, piece by piece, as if reality forgot it existed. There was no explosion, no flames, just erasure. Panic spread across the human command. Admiral Reese shouted orders. Fall back. All ships retreat to Soulgate. But Alara stayed. We can't run from this, she said. It's not just a battle, it's a test. What do you mean, Dane? Asked. She pointed to the large black vessel behind the mirror ships. That thing, whatever it is, it's watching. It wants to know if we'll make the same mistake again. She remembered the orb back at Station R9. It had activated by itself. It didn't wait for permission. What if it wasn't protecting humans? What if it was judging them? Alara made a choice. She took the Raven's call and flew back to Station R9. Fleet Command tried to stop her. She ignored them. Nearer, she said. Connect the orb. Wake it up. Inside the old station, the orb floated once again. Silent. Dim. But when Alara approached, something strange happened. The orb lit up. Symbols glowed, and for the first time, it spoke. A voice echoed through her ship. Not male. Not female. Not human. You used fire you did not understand. Alara stood still. We used it to protect ourselves. You used it to control. Now fire will judge the flame. Suddenly, Alara saw something, not with her eyes but inside her mind. A memory, not hers. A time before humans, before planets. Two forces drifting in the void. One made of white fire, the other made of black dust. They clashed across galaxies, not for power but for balance. One to protect space from chaos, the other to explore what was forbidden. The fire was not a weapon. It was a guardian, and when the war ended, it left its pieces behind to watch over what remained. Alara came back to herself. Her hands shook. We're not the owners of the fire, she whispered. We're just guests in its territory. But orb glowed brighter than speak the truth. Tell them what you saw. Back at the treaty line, the black vessel was opening. Not a hatch, not a door, a wound from it. A storm of shapes emerged. They looked like ships, but they twisted and shifted constantly, like they were half alive. The human fleet was overwhelmed. One by one, ships vanished. Admiral Reese gave a final order. Evacuate the station. Get the civilians out. But Elara's voice came through the system, broadcast across all channels. This is Captain Elara Voss. I have a message for everyone beyond this line, human or alien. We claimed the fire, but it was never ours. The line was not built to keep you out. It was built to keep them in. Now the cage is broken. If we want to survive, we must understand this. We are not the enforcers of the fire. We are the next ones being judged by it. As her message played, the orb at Station R9 exploded into white light. A massive wave of fire spread across the sky, not like a weapon, like a signal, a call, and something answered. From far beyond the stars, across the silent dark, a second light appeared. White, pure, burning. The true fire was waking up, and it was coming back. The true fire for the first time in 100 years. The sky over the Orion line was no longer silent. Where once there was an invisible border of peace, now a battle of light and darkness raged across the stars. Ships vanished like dust. Communications failed. The line had fallen. The truth had come out, and something ancient had returned. Captain Alara Voss stood inside Station R9. Her skin glowed in the soft white light now pouring from the floating orb. The fire inside it wasn't hot. It was controlled but watching. It was no longer just a machine. It was alive. Nero, she said softly, track that second signal. The new one, the AI's voice was quiet. It's not a signal, Captain, it's a being. Alara frowned. What do you mean? The white light that answered the orbits coming from outside the mapped galaxy, far beyond any human or alien territory. How far? Unknown. It's not traveling through space. It's folding it. Back near the border, the continued their slow destruction of the human fleet. All weapons failed. Lasers passed through them. Missiles exploded harmlessly in the dark. But then, the stars changed. A line of white fire began to appear in the sky, then at first like a scratch across the black, then brighter, thicker, alive. Everyone who saw it froze. The mirror ships stopped moving. Even the giant dark vessel paused its opening wound, holding still in the void. On Helios Arc, Admiral Reese stood on the bridge, his eyes wide. "What is that?" Dane Core, standing beside him, whispered, "The true fire." Back at R9, Elara watched as the orb floated higher. It spun faster. The strange alien symbols around it glowed like a heartbeat. Then the voice returned. "You spoke the truth. You were heard." Elara stepped forward. "What are you?" "We are the answer to the first spark. We do not rule, we balance. You used our warning as a wall, but now the wall is broken. So we return." Outside, space bent. And then, the fire carrier arrived. It was not a ship, not in any normal way. It was a being of light and geometry floating across space like a living star, its form changing constantly. Impossible to describe. It didn't fire weapons, it didn't speak, it simply looked at the black vessel and moved forward. The mirror ships reacted first. They rushed at the fire carrier, surrounding it, trying to trap it, but the moment they touched its light, they stopped. Each one froze in place. Then, piece by piece, their shapes broke apart into dust, dissolving without fire, without sound. The fire carrier passed through them like wind through ash. Elara watched it from the station window. She couldn't look away. Something in her soul recognized it, not as an enemy, not as a god, but as a reminder that humans were not the first, and never the strongest. The black vessel responded. It roared without sound. The stars shook. A wave of darkness spread from it like ink across space. The fire carrier answered with a pulse of light. The two waves met. Not like a battle, like two ideas, trying to cancel each other out. Space folded, time twisted, ships across the system lost gravity. People saw visions, memories of places they had never been, battles from long ago, fires that had burned before the birth of Earth. The fire carrier was not only destroying, it was remembering and showing everyone what once was. Inside the vision, Elara saw a planet made of crystal, once bright, now silent. She saw cities in the sky empty. She saw the mirror ships rise from ruins, like scavengers feeding on the dead, and she saw the first fire fall from the stars, not to kill, but to stop the spreading darkness. That was its mission. Not war. Balance. She came back to herself. The orb in front of her now glowed pure white. No more symbols. Only one message remained. The fire does not belong to you, but it remembers who protects its purpose. Elara nodded. "I'll protect it." Across space, the fire carrier moved into the heart of the black vessel. Light filled everything. The dark wound closed. The mirror ships, the storm ships, the shadow fleet all vanished, just gone. And when the light faded, only stars remained. The Orion line shimmered again, not broken, but reborn back on Earth. Leaders received Elara's message. They had no choice now but to believe. The fire had returned. Not as a weapon for humans to use, but as a force far beyond any species. And it had made its judgment. Elara was changed. She knew humans were now being watched, not for control, but to see if they learned, if they would stop using fear to hold power, and start using memory to keep balance. 1 week later, a new beacon was built at the edge of the treaty zone. Not a warning, not a wall, but a message, written in every known language. Here lies the line, not for conquest, not for fear, but for remembrance. Cross it only if you remember the fire and respect what watches from beyond. But in the deep dark, in places no light touches, something else was also watching. Something that did not fear fire, something that remembered when the fire first failed. Shadows never forgot. It had been 10 days since the fire carrier burned the sky clean. 10 days since the Orion line was reborn, not by humans, but by something older. Something watching. The galaxy was quiet again, but not safe. Because deep in a dead zone far beyond any border, past even the fire's reach, something else moved. Not ships. Not machines. Shadows. Captain Elara Voss walked slowly through the quiet halls of Station R9. The orb was no longer glowing. It now floated silently, dim but alive, like a sleeping eye. Her AI Nero reported calm across all sectors. No signs of mirror ships, no strange energy readings. The fire carrier had vanished after the battle, leaving only silence behind. But Elara didn't trust silence anymore. It was too heavy to still, like the pause between breathing in and out. Like the moment before a second wave. She called a meeting with the Orion Border Defense Council. Holograms of leaders and officers appeared in her ship's war room. They smiled politely, but Elara saw it in their eyes. They thought it was over. We should rebuild patrol routes, one admiral said. Reopen trade, another added. A diplomat from Venus smiled. The line is stable. We can move forward. Ilara stood with her arms crossed. No, she said. It's not over. The room went quiet. 10 days ago we learnt the fire wasn't ours. We were warned, not rewarded. We've been watched for a long time, and we passed the first test. She paused, but the shadows never forgot. Colonel Dane Core backed her up. The fire carrier didn't destroy everything. It left. That means there are still parts of the darkness it didn't erase. Things that weren't ready to be judged yet. He played an image. An ancient star map from Project Ashland marked with strange, unreadable coordinates. These systems are empty now. Dead, but 90 years ago, they weren't. He pointed at one system. Virik 6, once home to a growing, alien species. Now nothing remains, not even dust. No explosion, no debris. Just silence. Erased. Elara made her decision. We're going out there, she said, to see what the shadows left behind. The Raven's Call left orbit 48 hours later with a crew of 4. Ilara Voss, Captain Dane Core, ex-Ashline Colonel Nero. Ship AI Tess Rami, a young linguist who studied the orb symbols, their destination. A dead system once called Ido's Reach. It had no known planets. No records. Mo records, but long ago. One human drone passed near it. The footage showed a strange event, stars bending, and one shadow. Looking back, the journey took 4 days through warp space. When they arrived, the system was darker than usual. Even the stars seemed tired. Nero scanned the area. No planets, no structures, just a debris field. Ilara narrowed her eyes. Zoom in. On screen, shattered metal, pieces of stone, glowing dust, but mixed with it something strange. Fragments of writing, not human, not alien. Symbols like the ones from the orb. Tess stared at them in shock. These aren't ruins, they're messages. From who? Dane asked. Not sure, but they look like warnings. Suddenly, the lights on the bridge dimmed. Nero's voice changed. Static buzzed. Interference detected. Source, unknown. Then a new message appeared on every screen. Words in every language at once. We remember the fire. We forgive nothing. Ilira's breath caught. They're still alive. The ship shook. From outside, a wave of black mist rolled across space. Gas. Not energy. Memory. As it passed, each crew member began seeing things. Not dreams. Experiences. Elara saw herself as a child standing in front of the treaty line display at the academy. A voice whispered in her mind. This is where the lie began. Dane saw Project Ashline's first test fire on the faces of those who vanished in its light. Tess saw symbols crawling across the walls of her lab, forming a single sentence. The flame burned truth first. Even Nero began stuttering, its systems confused by impossible code looping through its core. I am not alone. Suddenly, from the edge of the debris field, a shape appeared. It wasn't a ship, it was a hole, floating perfectly round, a tear in space from inside. It came sound. Not noise. Voices, all speaking at once, all remembering, all angry. The fire was never yours. You used it without asking. You enforced it with fear. Now we return, not to erase, to remind. Tess stared at the floating tear. It's not a portal, it's a message. Dane frowned. What kind of message? She turned slowly. A trial. Then the voice changed. Deeper, singular, more focused. One among you remembers what you did. One among you chose fire over balance. Ilara turned to Dane. His face had gone pale. No, he whispered. They can't know, but they did. The Shadow Force wasn't just returning to challenge humans, they were returning to punish him. Dane Core, the man who helped activate the orb long ago without permission, without knowing the cost. The fire had obeyed him once, and, in doing so, it had broken its balance. Ilara faced the tear in space. I speak for this crew, she said, and I ask, what do you want? The answer was chilling. We want truth. We want him. We want the first liar. Dane stepped forward. He looked older than ever. He took a deep breath. And walked toward the tear. Ilara tried to stop him. He shook his head. I gave them fire without asking. If I must burn now, maybe that brings balance back. He stepped inside and vanished. The tear closed. The black mist faded. Silence returned, and a final message appeared on their screens. One liar judged. One truth accepted. The fire may watch again. Ilara looked at Tess. At Nero. At the stars beyond. We're not done, she said. The shadows forgave nothing, but they gave us a second chance, and second chances were rare in the fire. Second flame. Captain Alara Voss stared at the place where Colonel Dane Core had vanished. The floating black tear in space was gone now. No trace, no signal, only silence. He had stepped into the unknown to answer for what he had done years ago when he helped activate the fire that wasn't theirs. And in return, the shadows gave a warning, not an attack, not a war, just a message. One judged, one truth accepted. The fire may watch again. Alara sat alone in her quarters on the Raven's Call, listening to the hum of the ship. Nero had restored normal. Systems. Tess was resting in the medbay after what they saw in Edo's Reach. But Alara couldn't sleep, because something about the message bothered her. The fire may watch again, not will. Not has. May. That meant it hadn't fully returned, not yet. The next morning, Tess entered the bridge with a new theory. She placed a projection in front of Elaru symbols collected from the orb, the shadows, and the mysterious white fire that arrived during the battle at the Orion Line. They were similar, but not the same. There are two types of fire, Tess said. The first flame, and something else. Alara leaned forward. A second. Tess nodded. Yes, a backup, a younger one. That's when Nero added something unexpected. Ancient Varex data. I've found a match. He showed a forgotten legend from an old alien archive written before even humans had left Earth. When the first flame sleeps, the second will rise not to judge, but to decide. Alara whispered. Decide what? Tess answered. Whether to replace the first. The message was clear. The first flame, the guardian force that enforced the line, was fading. It had been awake for too long, used too often, changed by human hands. The second flame was now watching from the dark, but it wasn't just another light. That it was different. It didn't just protect, balance, it chose sides. The crew set course for a hidden relay beacon left by Project Ash. Tess believed it might have data about this second flame. It was buried on a moon called Zeros 3, a place long removed from maps. It took 2 days of travel. No communication, no contact with Earth, just stars, dust, and silence. When they arrived, Zeros 3 was cold, cracked, and covered in ash. It didn't rotate. One side burned in eternal sunlight, the other frozen in night. The beacon was located in a bunker under the dark side. As they entered the structure, their lights flickered. Alara gripped her weapon. Tess carried the portable scanner. Nero stayed connected to them through comms. Inside, the walls were lined with old Earth tech screens, tubes, dead wires. But in the center was a strange container that it pulsed faintly. Not white like the first flame. Not black like the shadow. Orange, hot, flickering, like a new fire just waking. Tess scanned the container. It's alive, and it's aware. Alara stepped closer. What is it? A voice echoed, not from a speaker, from the walls themselves. We are the second. You are not judged. You are observed. Suddenly, Alara was surrounded by images, not vision, but not hers. She saw other species, other civilizations across the galaxy. Some used fire to protect, others used it to conquer. Those who respected the fire survived. Those who didn't, vanished. Then a final image: Earth burning in 2 ways. One, flame white, protective. Another orange, growing, changing, splitting apart. She came back to herself. Tess looked pale. Did you see that? Alara nodded. It's not just observing us, it's testing us, Nero confirmed. This second flame is not linked to the original fire system. It was hidden, kept separate, designed to awaken only if the first showed weakness. And we weakened it, Alara said quietly. We used it as a weapon. Then the container spoke again. One more test remains. You have 10 cycles. Then we choose. Replace or restore. The message was clear. The second flame was considering replacing the first, but, to decide that, it wanted to see how humanity acted now, without power, without fear, without control, just truth. As they left the bunker, the container shut down. The light faded, but the message repeated in Elara's mind. You have 10 cycles. Back on the Raven's Call, Alara made a decision. She sent a secure message to Earth Command. No political words, no hidden language, just a direct report. The fire we borrowed is not ours. Another watches now, a second flame. It will decide what we become. We are out of time. We must earn the flame or lose it forever. As the ship drifted into silence once more, Nero detected something on long-range scanners. A single ship, not human, not alien, just there, not moving, not responding, watching. Tess looked out the viewing screen. She whispered, they're already observing us. And Alara understood. This wasn't a war, not yet. It was a test, a final one. The fire wouldn't protect them this time. The second flame would simply watch. and then decide whether to light the galaxy again or leave it in the dark. The last watcher of the fire line was no longer feared, it was now understood. Where once the Orion border glowed with white heat and silent destruction, it now shimmered with soft orange light. Live, watching but not judging. The second flame had made its choice. You chose memory. The fire will stand with you. The war that never began had already changed everything. The question now was, could humanity keep what it had earned? Captain Alara Voss returned to Earth after 6 weeks of silence in deep space. She had faced shadows, seen gods made of flame, and walked through ancient lies, but now she stood before a room of world leaders. No weapons, no fear, just truth. There will be no more hidden stations, she said. No more secret uses of the flame. The fire isn't a weapon, it's a mirror. If we lie to it, it leaves. If we use it wrongly, it burns. But if we remember it, it watches with us. The leaders sat quietly. Many had once ignored her. Now they listened. As part of the new treaty, called the Ember Accord, the Orion line was open to share. Observatories, one from each species. Human. V Rex. Tarsen. Even species that once feared the fire were now allowed to study it. Together. Not as owners. As witnesses. Tess. Rami was made chief interpreter of flame glyphs. She worked with alien minds and machines to build the first ever living system that could speak directly with fire stations. Her first conversation with the second flame was brief. Only one sentence. We wait for the last watcher. No one knew what that meant. Not even Nero. Weeks passed. Peace held, until one night, in a silent corner of Sector 19, something strange happened. A patrol drone went dark. Its final image was strange. A star, dead cold. Then a single glowing eye, staring directly at the camera. The signal reached Alara quickly. She boarded the Ravens. Call again. Tess joined her and Nero, but this time, they didn't fly toward war. They flew toward a question. The coordinates led them to an abandoned sector, one that never had a fire station. Just a frozen star, and a small, ancient ship orbiting it. No ID tag, no response. Alara took a shuttle and docked with the ship. Inside, the lights flickered. Dust. Silence. One chair. One person sitting in it, alive. Awake. Watching her. He looked about 30 human, but his eyes glowed faint orange. Not sick, not scared, just calm. Who are you? Alara asked. He smiled gently. I'm the last watcher. Tess entered behind her, stunned. You're one of the Linneburn. He shook his head. No, I came after them. When they vanished, I remained. Alara frowned. You've been here? All this time, he nodded. The first flame gave me one task. Watch the line until the second arrives. If the fire is ever forgotten again, remind them. They brought him back aboard. Scanned him. Spoke with him. Learned that he had been alone for 80 years, sleeping, waking, dodging, and now he had been awakened because the second flame had made its choice. But the fire knew memory fades, and so, it had left behind a reminder. The last watcher traveled with Alara to station R-9. He stood quietly as the second flame flickered in the core chamber. He said only one thing. Fire is not forever, but it always returns. Tess asked, what do we do now? Alara smiled. Now we tell the truth. Every year, every generation. She placed her hand on the station wall. And spoke the final log. This is Captain Alara Voss of the Ravens Call. We once believed the fire was ours. We were wrong. We enforced it with power. We confused silence with peace. And we forgot that fire is not control, it is memory. Now the line lives again. Not to divide, but to protect balance. And it watches. With us. As long as one soul remembers, the fire will never be alone. And far beyond even that, in the places where stars are still being born. A flicker of orange danced. A watcher stood, and the flame burned quietly, patiently, forever. Replace or restore the message from the second flame was clear. You have 10 cycles. Then we choose. 10 cycles. 10 days. To prove if humanity was worthy of keeping the flame or if it would be replaced. But no one knew what replaced truly meant. Did it mean the first flame would be removed forever, or would something else take its place? Something colder, darker, more willing to judge without mercy. Captain Alara Voss sat alone in her command chair aboard the Raven's Call. The soft hum of the engines was the only sound in the dark room. Her crew was asleep, but she couldn't rest. Every system showed peace, no threats, no signals, no attacks. But that didn't comfort her, because now she understood they were being watched. Every choice, every word, every moment was being measured, not by enemies, but by something far more dangerous. a silent fire waiting to decide their future. The next morning, Tess Rami entered the bridge holding a data tablet. "I've translated the remaining symbols," she said. "From the orb, the second flame, even the fire carrier. They all speak in the same root language, just evolved differently." Ilara raised an eyebrow. "What does it say?" Tess read slowly. "In balance, fire guards life. In pride, fire burns it. Those who forget this burn alone." Ilara sat back. "So the second flame isn't just here to replace, it's here to judge pride." Tess nodded. "We used fire as control. As power, we made it a wall, a weapon. But the flame was never meant for pride. They had to act fast." Ilara opened a secure channel to Earth's Orion command. The Admiral on screen looked impatient. "We've heard your reports, Captain," he said. "But we're not about to hand our defense over to alien fire." "You never had control of it," Ilara said. "That was always a lie. We held the line." "No," she corrected. "We held a leash around something we didn't understand. And now, the leash is gone. And we're being tested." The Admiral narrowed his eyes. "Then what do you suggest?" Ilara took a breath. "We stop pretending we're in charge." For the next 6 days, Ilara and her team traveled to 3 old fire stations along the original Orion line. These places once hosted the ancient orbs. Some were destroyed, others were deactivated. But in one station, Epsilon 9, they found something new, a second flame observer, a single silver sphere, smooth and quiet. It hovered inside a sealed chamber. Tess scanned it. No signal, no energy, but it's listening. Then, as Ilara approached, it glowed, a soft orange light, and a voice. "Day 7. Response. Observation accepted. Conflict pending." Ilara frowned. "Conflict?" Nero replied from the bridge. "Captain, I'm picking up movement. 12 ships, unknown origin, moving fast toward station Epsilon-9. They weren't shadows, they weren't human, they were something in between." Fire touched. As the ships neared, Ilara made a bold decision. She didn't raise shields. She didn't aim weapons. She opened a channel. "Identify yourselves." No response. Then, one message flashed on the screen. "We are the Lilyborn." The ships stopped just outside the station, hovering, waiting. Tess looked confused. Lilyborn. Nero found a match deep in Project Ashland's secret records. A group of humans altered by the fire protocol, created during early tests, thought to be destroyed in containment breach. Ilara's voice went quiet. "They weren't destroyed. They were changed." The Lilyborn responded again. This time they showed their faces, human but glowing slightly, orange fire inside their veins. One spoke. "We are not enemies. We are the last memory of balance. You forced us to hide. Now, the second flame listens. Again, so we return." They told Ilara the truth. During the first experiments, the fire protocol had merged with several test subjects. These humans began to carry fire not as a weapon, but as an understanding. They became living keys to the system. But the military feared them, locked them away, lied about their deaths. Now, with the second flame watching, the Lilyborn had returned. Not for revenge, for balance. They offered Ilara a message. "Restore what was broken, or we will replace what cannot be saved." With only 3 cycles left, Ilara and the Lilyborn set a plan into motion. They would reignite the original fire stations, but not as weapons, as beacons of truth. Across the old Orion line, ancient stations lit up again, this time in soft orange light, not white. Messages were sent to all species. The fire was never ours. We only protect what it means. We do not burn, we remember. Then, on the 10th cycle, the second flame arrived. No warning, no flash. It simply appeared floating above the rebuilt line, larger than before. Its light was calm. Measured, and then it spoke. To everyone, at once, every species, every mind. 10 cycles complete. You chose humility. You chose memory. The fire is not yours, but it will stand with you. At that moment, every fire station along the border glowed. The line was reborn, but it wasn't a wall anymore. It was a reminder. Ilara stood outside her ship, looking at the new light in the sky. Tess came beside her. "We didn't keep the fire." Ilara smiled. "We earned it." But even as peace returned, far beyond the map, a voice whispered, "The flame may stand with you now. But what happens when you forget again?"